Speaking on people with a lot of money, Jay-Z also made a comment about billionaires.
And capitalism.
He said, your morality defines who you are. Your morality is not defined by a dollar amount. A person with more money can do more good. It's a choice. It's a very kind of bland blanket statement, obviously, because he is a billionaire. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about how he navigated that question?
Oh, boy. Look, it's difficult especially when he says, because I have more, I can do more good. But sometimes it's like, okay, what did you have to do to get more so you can do more good?
Yep.
He kind of addressed that a little bit too.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I heard that part as well. But it's hard because, like, I feel like, hey, man, so if you can build a better mousetrap and sell, a bunch of them and reach $1 billion, then okay, I don't think that being a billionaire inherently is an evil thing. But I think that when there are so many people that don't have anything or exist in this world, for someone to have for $1 billion does seem somewhat immoral, especially when sometimes the way you have $1 billion is you avoid paying into a system that could help other people, and I know that's very complicated and nuanced. And like some people have their whole thing about taxes and this, that, and the third. But I'm just saying, it's crazy to see someone like Elon Musk, approach being a trillionaire, at least on paper, and then like we're still talking about people not having health care. Like something seems wrong in that equation.
I agree.
And so like I think when people have listened to us have these conversations and bring up capitalism, that's what we're bothered by. We're not bothered by someone being successful and having nice things. It's by the fact that you have all these things and there are people with no things.
Yeah.
Hoarding.
And at a certain point, and then when you ask, hey, you have 10 Bentleys, if we change this about how the system works, maybe you only have 8 Bentleys.
Yeah, that's the big
and people
thing.
are like, I don't know. But if you realize, if you tell that person, hey, if you only get 8 Bentleys instead of 10, maybe kids will be able to have health care and schools will be funded. There won't be any potholes. And you're still like, but I like my 10 Bentleys.
Yeah.
That's where where it gets complicated. And that's where it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, there's definitely levels to it. And there's things that are done outside of our, site, beyond the closed doors, that actually do help certain things. I do like the fact that he alluded to or discussed that artists having money had always been frowned upon. Like being an artist, you weren't supposed to have money. And then when artists started getting money, in particular black artists, now all of a sudden it's frowned upon. Oh, you got too much money now.
Oh no. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what he does with his money, like as far as, police reform, helping other artists pay taxes, things that he does in his neighborhood back home. There's a lot of things that we don't see him do. But in the same token, he's still a billionaire and he's married to Beyonce.
He's married to another billionaire.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, what would you do?
6, 7.
Right.
Oh, yeah. What would you do though? Like if you were in that position, you've made all of this money. Are you just giving away the money?
I think that the bigger piece is that you should never be in that position, right? So like Jay very simply mentioned tax rates, right? Mm-hmm. If the tax rates were a little bit more appropriate in the sense of the Bentley piece, mm-hmm. the tax rates would always be skewed in a way to where nobody could reach that mark. So once you get up to a certain amount of money, your tax rate is 90% or 95%. Sure, you can continue to make money and make stuff, but majority of it is going back to the society that you were a part of, that you benefit from, things of that nature.
So then you have to rely on the government to do the right thing. Yeah,
which is the way that it's going to have to be.
Which is not going to happen.
But we are seeing in real time that it's failing completely the other way, right? And Trump is a great example of how he is stripping government in all these different places, protections, the EPA, things of that nature. Literally,
the FDA,
TSA. Literally, right now, He won't sign the thing because he doesn't want to spend the money for all this stuff because he wants to strip voting rights from people. Like all this stuff is very closely connected, and it's all to put money into the pockets of himself, who the only president who has made over $1 billion as president last year, or something like that. So
close to 3.
Crazy.
Yeah, so and he's just putting the money in the billionaires' pockets. And so, sure, Jay-Z may be a billionaire, and he may be, you could say, quote unquote, sure, he's one of the more morally, ethically, one of the more ethical billionaires, as opposed to somebody like a Donald Trump or somebody like an Elon Musk, because he's not directly exploiting labor in the same type of way that they are. Mm-hmm. But you also do not reach such heights without benefiting from a system that cripples others. And so to answer your question, what do you do at this point? I don't think there's anything you can do at this point except raise tax rates. And
they don't pay them anyway.
Yeah. So say if you raise it to 95%, then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to put this money here. I'm going to...
tax capital gains. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do.
And, and the thing is, like I said, I'm looking at having my capital gains taxed, and I don't like it.
No, I don't like it either. I get it. But at the same time, like, it's like, I don't like it, but it's also it's a good thing. Like, it's, like I can look at it and be like, like I have to pay more taxes this year and I probably shouldn't, but I'll look at the billionaires and they're not paying any money in taxes.
I think that's the problem, because you and I, with whatever we make through the whatever little stocks and crypto we have, they're going to make sure that we pay our share.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To where there are other people who are always going to wake up and it was like, oh, I wrote off an airplane and my G-Wagon and I don't have to pay any taxes. Mm-hmm. And I have an airplane and a G-Wagon. And it was like, well, how is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, there's ways to close the system up. And so what can Jay-Z do? He can be a part of the solution. That's what I would say.
I feel that. But at the end of the day, again, it's up to the government to make those decisions.
Well, it's up to people with money and influence. And we live in an oligarchy where the people with money have power. So he is
they're part of the government.
And he's, well, not necessarily. They're influencers.
Well, they're in bed with the government, essentially.
Well, no, they dictate the government based upon the money that they have, right? So, none of this is a good thing, by the way, but like that's just the way that it kind of works and operates. And when you are the top 0.0001%, such as Jay-Z is, regardless, like he has reached a place to where he is beyond, he's not just a rich black man anymore, like. He's beyond a black man that has become successful. He is a part of that class now. Mm-hmm. Sure. From one perspective, I can look at Jay-Z and be like, I'm happy that he has achieved the success that he has achieved. Sure. Absolutely. But that's kind of where it stops, and it's like,
because now you're part of the machine.
You're a part of the dictating machine. You're a part of what's influencing everything. And sure, you can do it as ethically as you can, but you can only be so ethical.
When you have $1 billion.
When you have, it's like you can only, like you're just sitting with it, and investments and things of that nature. And yes, it's complicated, but there are steps that we can get. And I don't want to turn this straight political, but I feel like that his statement, Byron, I'll let you speak, but like I feel like what he said was par for the course, and I kind of, it just makes me feel even further along with my lines that there are no such thing as good billionaires.
Ethical billionaires.
Yeah, because I mean, not that this would have changed my mind either way, but you have anything to add?
No.
Well, it's just because some of the things is just because we see such a line of, for lack of a better term, fuckery with people who have $1 billion, especially recently when you think about, okay, we're talking about Epstein Island and we're talking about all these other things where like, oh, these people have so much money, they think they can do anything. And,
there's no checks and balances.
There's no checks and balances. It's almost like, okay, if certain things are only punishable by a monetary fine, then are you telling me basically that there are, if you have enough money, you can just do what you want? Say, driving driving 100 miles an hour is only punishable by, $1,000 fine. If I have $1 billion, I'm just going to drive 100 miles an hour everywhere I got to go, because the only punishment is something monetary, and a monetary punishment does not hurt me.
It just cripples people that don't have the money, just like the bail system.
I agree. I agree with everything that y'all are saying, but like in the same token, I kind of feel like, in a sense, you demonize somebody for being successful because we feel like they have too much money.
But how's it demonizing them though? Because
it's like you said, you feel like you said it's pretty much wrong for anybody to be a billionaire, right?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So somebody that worked and got where they got, and people have been supporting his grind and hustle or whatever, and everything that he's been doing has been successful. And now it's at a point where, oh, you're a billionaire, so
no, it ain't just that, man. It's whose back you had to step on to get that $1 million, man. You're like, yes, you.
We talked about that too in that interview, as far as how he said he felt like morally he didn't do anybody wrong, essentially on his way to being successful.
Yeah, you was about to say.
I mean, we talking about Dame Dash.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying.
I think it's more so. It's less about from an individualist standpoint, right? Like it's more so just the fact that you can't ethically not stand on people's backs. If you achieve that, like you just can't.
Like for instance, like think about the people in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like Jay helped gentrify Brooklyn. You know what I mean? All those people that had to move out their homes, because they couldn't afford taxes after they built that arena there. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, it's some things that Jay did. You know what I mean? That are that can be looked at kind of skewed. You know what I mean?
It can be, but in the same. They can be happy that they had a team. Like I can say, like,
not if you can't go to the games.
All right, let's say I'm a billionaire and I go back and change my old neighborhood into better houses. Now, essentially, it's probably going to cost more to live there, but I don't charge the people that live there anything extra. Now, what naturally is going to happen? Right, that's what I was going to say. What naturally is going to happen is because I made my neighborhood look better. And now there's stores and grocery stores and things like that to that nature. Now the taxes are more. So it's like I helped, but in a sense it was a hindrance. Yep. So it's almost like you can't win in that situation because people want to be helped and you want to do something for your community. But then when you make it look better and it's more presentable now the state and the government comes in and they want their fee. So now, oh, it looks real nice over there now. So now we're going to tax you more to live over there. Yeah. So even though I allowed the people that are already part of the neighborhood not have to move and still make everything look better and more presentable, and now they have an easier access to food because a lot of these places are food deserts, and there's not as many liquor stores and shit on the corners. Now they have to eat the taxes, so to speak. So now I'm looked at as the boogeyman because I made everything better, but in a sense, some people still can't afford to live there. Yeah, because
you made my $500 apartment. I'm just throwing numbers out. Yeah. But now it's 13.
But at the same time, if instead that money went into a tax system to where like the government, right? People have their feelings about the government, right? Mm-hmm. But let's say this money goes into this tax system that gets paid to the government, and that is funneled out through, not only is policy created to where like these people that are intentionally, they can't be priced out of their own stuff, but help is given through the government as well through that. Mm-hmm. The government can function and create this so it's not on the burden of one person and that person's private equity to build this within it. It's a part of the actual system, but the person can contribute by simply paying taxes. All that person has to do is contribute to society and support the institutions that are created within it, and we can vote to make sure that those institutions are created.
Yeah, now, so essentially that has to be fixed before I can help.
It all has to be fixed.
Yeah.
But it will never be fixed as long as billionaires are that.
Well, as long as there is a system in place that ensures that billionaires their money, even if they pay into the system, their money doesn't go to help anybody.
And that requires a whole lot of trust in the politicians as well.
Exactly.
And, so
it's essentially not really the system, for me to be rich and be comfortable and be deemed as ethically responsible,
The system has
the
to
whole
work.
system has to be
the
fixed.
entirety of the system, because
Right, because I can't do anything that's deemed right until that part is fixed.
right
At the end of the day,
you can yeah. So number one would be to advocate for such a tax system to be a little bit more equitable for everybody else. Would also be to prop up candidates that want to instill and do such a change. So put money behind candidates that are more progressive in nature. Remember, we live in a capitalist society where both parties are capitalist. Nobody is anti-capitalist, right?
No.
So like until we have a big push, something that would be potentially be very equitable is if you put a lot of this money into pushing something like that, propping up an actual third party or an actual something counteractive to the capitalist class that is actually pushing everything. It's going to take somebody with a lot of influence and a lot of money to be able to do that. I guess is why I say that.
And a lot of time.
Because we have grassroots pushes like that, but everything takes money, and everything takes conversations like this to have these conversations about, like, sure, we can all like Jay-Z as a person, but why is he bad for society as he exists?
I think that could have happened like maybe 50 years ago, maybe
Because that's as long as it's going to
ago.
take to correct,
But
essentially.
It's going to be
over. It's over for that now, man.
We'll see.
Well, you know what?
We'll see how fast everything gets burned down in the next couple of years.
Oh, it's up.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we head.
Yeah.
Gas is $4.20.
That's if you put regular gas in your car.
I know, that's crazy.
And I don't see any stickers
man,
pointing at the
yeah.
sign that says Trump
Bad
did
time,
that.
brother.
Or
Bad
I
time.
did.
Yeah, I can't even cat daddy around like I want to, because now gas is,
And I heard the gas isn't as good too. I don't know if there's any truth to that.
Yeah,
It feels like it's burning faster.
That's what people are
There's
saying.
probably water in that shit.
Mm-hmm.
They say it's actually more ethanol. Apparently that's what does it, not water, which is interesting.
Well,
But-
one of the things is that, and this is something that happens, especially in conversations with African Americans, where we'll see somebody black who's reached a certain level and say they start a new venture, and somebody say, so and so they don't need none of my money.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, we never say that about Tommy Hilfiger or Ralph Lauren or, I don't know, whoever white musician that's doing something, but we will say that about each other. As I sit here in a Ralph Lauren sweatshirt and vest, but I'm just saying, like, it's sometimes that's sometimes where there's the pushback, where sometimes we are so critical of each other when we reach a certain level.
All right.
And it feels like, damn, man, like here we talk about the need for this, that, and the third, but then when somebody reaches this level, we talk about how they don't need all that money.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because like I have not heard one person complain about going to this man's
concert,
tours.
yeah.
You know what I mean? People are doing whatever they can to
3 sold-out shows.
to come up to however much it costs to go to these shows in New York or Philadelphia. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, but at the same time, they'll be like, well, they'll still say, man, gas is so expensive.
Yeah, they getting on them shows. They going, whether it puts them in debt or not. So like we can have these conversations about,
I mean,
Jay-Z being a billionaire,
Jay-Z, Beyonce, whoever it is,
Yeah.
and they just happen to be married. But like, these people are finding money to go to these shows,
mm-hmm.
yeah, and they're going to continue.
and maybe those are the people. You know, I
Klarna.
still know
There you
people
go.
personally who are struggling right now
yeah,
for a myriad of reasons, and it doesn't. And it's hard for them to see some. I can imagine what it is if you are worried about paying your mortgage, or you're like, oh, maybe okay, I can't get the bread and the potatoes or whatever. I can either get it's either or for when I go to the grocery store and you see somebody who's already a billionaire charging $500 for concert tickets.
Mhm.
It's got to be. It's got to rub you the wrong way.
Like, that's a great example. How much are tickets?
I've seen people saying they were getting tickets for like $100-some.
That's not
but
bad.
that depends on where you're
Yeah, but
sitting.
that's also you
It's in
sit
Yankee
you
Stadium.
sitting next to the
Like-
Y
like-
and the Yankee sign.
I guess what I'm saying is there's no reason for Jay-Z to charge ridiculous amount for tickets. That's a very clear example. There's no reason for him. He doesn't need the money, number one, at all. Why don't you create an experience for people that can actually afford to go to your show? Why do you have to tax people out the wazoo for these tickets?
Yeah,
Because at the same time, it's
So
what the
you-
market will bear.
And you're also, I mean, it's Yankee Stadium, so you don't know how much that costs for them to
Sure.
run. A lot of these shows will. I know when you're doing a big ass spot like that, all that money is not going to the artist. Some of it's, of course, going to the venue to even operate. And then you got stage hands.
Sure.
We don't know how elaborate the show is going to be. So
the band,
but we also know how many seats this thing has.
Yeah, we know how many seats it has. But like, I feel you as far as tickets, pretty much to all shows are out of control nowadays. Anyway.
Yes, very much so.
And Ticketmaster is to blame for a lot of this, and Live Nation.
And
shout out
to
Ticketmaster.
what's her name that took her tickets off of Ticketmaster?
It was Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
To pretty much avoid that and to still provide her fans with an experience. But her tickets are
super
crazy
expensive. Yeah.
But I mean, it would be nice if Jay-Z used some of his billions of dollars to throw a free show for everybody,
or just
whatnot.
$100,
or even do a J. Cole situation where it's $1 to get into the show. You just gotta be one of the first people to get one of the $1 tickets.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be free. Like he can make money. There's nothing. It does like this doesn't have to be a poverty cult. Like it's not like, hey, you got to be poor. It's not what it is. It's just like,
but it's
you
almost
got to
like,
read the room a little bit.
True, but it's almost like sometimes I remember this is way back in the day. A Tribe Called Quest was on the cover of The Source. This is early 90s, and it's almost sometimes there are artists within hip hop because it's like, hey, I'm not making a lot of money, guys, so I'm keeping it real. Like one of my favorite songs by De La Soul is The Ego Trip. There was a video for that, and one of the members was driving like a clearly used Mercedes-Benz SL, and they made a point to say it's a rental. It's like, why shouldn't De La Soul, one of the members of De La Soul, have a Mercedes-Benz SL? Or like, with what I was talking about with the Tribe Called Quest, like they asked Phife Dawg something, and he's like, oh, it's an investment because he had a BMW, because he didn't. I think he thought he'd be called out for being a hip hop artist with a BMW, and it's like, first of all, BMW is not an investment.
Piss poor one,
terrible.
Second of all, it's like, dude, you sold enough records and done shows. Why shouldn't you have a BMW?
I think the biggest misconception around this, and then we can move on, is that this isn't, like I said, this isn't like a poverty cult. This isn't about like people need to be poor and don't need to make money. It's just that like at a certain point it becomes excessive, and that excessiveness can very much contribute back to society to make more people more well off and less at the bottom where we all sit from. Because if that money goes towards, aid and infrastructure built within our country to help people not have to suffer, I mean, then more people are doing better, and then more people spend money, and then it kind of fuels itself in that own type of way. I don't know.
Trickle down shit never worked though.
Yeah,
but that ain't trickle down. That's not trickle down. That's investing into, that's literally giving people the money.
Yeah.
That they need.
There needs to be an implosion of the whole system altogether, and it needs to be rebuilt back up. That's the only thing. That's the only way it's going to work. Essentially, how people would deem it to be ethically correct. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there could be more ethical. There could be more companies that are built that are, more co-op based and things of that nature. But.
Look, I wouldn't have the issue with, my capital gains being taxed if I thought it was going towards,
war.
Schools, and if I thought it was going towards medicine for children and making sure that people have the things that they need, and just fixing the goddamn streets. Instead, my money's going to Sidewinder missiles, and so I can't get down with that.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I get it. Like I'm 100% on board with that shit.
Yeah, like sometimes people be like, well, how do you feel about your tax dollars going to this, that, and the third, and it's something that's going to help people? I was like, look, I've been paying for war since I was 16 years old, and I got my first job at Hardee's. Like, ask me how I feel about that. Don't ask me how I feel about my money going towards somebody who might actually need some help.
And they still take our money of taxes out to put them into those things. We just need to vote people in that aren't going to send our money over to do that shit.
Yeah. And then they still, when it goes to where it's supposed to go, essentially, it still ends up in somebody else's pocket. So, I mean, it's the whole system of sorts needs to be
long story short,
redone.
The system's broken.
Yeah, that's all it is.
System's broken. Jay-Z's not a horrible human being, but he is a billionaire. And I'm glad he has good morals, but, you can always have better morals and shit.
And he does do some good things with his money.
Sure. Yeah.
But you could always do more, Jay.
Ain't he doing something with the school system in New York?
Is he?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't kept up recently, but
he's doing some things.
We talked about it at one point. but that was several episodes ago. Which
it
you
was
should check
something
out.
trying to help the kids that couldn't afford to go to
Private schools.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was the whole voucher system, and like there's problems there too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
is. Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, you can never be 100% right. So